as long as I've been working with people from all walks of life. I mean, we're talking people who live in the country, people who live in the city, rich folk, poor folk, black, white, brown, everything, and every single thing in between. I'm convinced of one thing, that there is an 8-year-old, maybe 5 or 6 in some cases, that lives inside all of us. There really is a child that lives inside all of us. And I'm going to tell you something, that's perfectly fine. I love children. I have a child. Children can be fun. But what a child can't do, for very obvious reasons, a child cannot run the show. And your inner child cannot run the show. And all too often, this is what we see happening in folks with maladapted behaviors. And I want to share with you some suggestions on how to, number one, just, really get real with yourself. And if you have an inner child that is unruly and acting up, it's likely because there was a trauma that happened. And if it was not a trauma, it really could simply boil down to the way that you were raised. Perhaps you didn't get the level of support, care, comfort that you needed to organize your thoughts in a mature way, to problem solve through emotions in a mature way. It's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. The problem is when you don't just acknowledge that with yourself and say, you know what, I need to build in a mechanism to cope with this child, this unruly child, when they get out of hand. And one way you can do that, one method and model, is the loving parent model. A lot of us, don't want to reparent ourselves or do that work, but in some cases it's necessary. And as a loving parent, how would you handle your 7 or 8-year-old getting out of line, being unruly? I feel that if you're a good parent, you're not going to be brutal. You're not going to shame them. You're going to talk to them and share logically. And that's how you can talk to that 8-year-old child inside. Hey, now calm down. You know what this is about. You always did have a problem in terms of sharing, or, hey, wait a minute. Let's back up. There's enough affection and warmth to go around. Hey, did you forget? We're not 8 anymore. We're pulling this up. You're going to be okay. You can go outside, run, jump, and play. Let the adults step in the seat here. So you build really some humor about it. You build that intimate relationship with yourself, so you can just deal. As I always say, you have to deal in order to heal. Another wonderful exercise for really soothing and comforting that inner child within is to periodically just do some journaling, and how that could look a lot of different ways. You can really journal as your 8-year-old self, kind of expressing what's going on with you, what are the problems, what are the concerns. You could also journal letters as the adult to the child within, comforting, soothing. It is really powerful. It really packs a punch. And also the other thing that you can do, depending on where your challenge is, you could really start to imagine yourself as that 8-year-old child set apart from you. Of course, I had a woman that I was working with, and I encouraged her. She said, Sheila, it's difficult for me to speak up in these board meetings. I just feel like the child who's inadequate. I said, well, that's your 8-year-old coming out. And I said, what I want you to do is just imagine her in the room, but give her some dolls or something to play with off in a corner. Let her enjoy herself with some ice cream, something like that. And you key into that energy of the competent, responsible adult that you are. You can't let the 8-year-old sit there at the boardroom meeting and run it. because it's not going to go well. So again, these are some thoughts and suggestions, but primarily the number one thing you need to do to get that unruly or that insecure, that shy 8-year-old in control is acknowledge that that child is there, and do the work of soothing, comforting, redirecting, and just continue to elevate your life. Thank you so much. This has been Inspirational Shorts with Sheila. I'll connect with you soon.